If your home were about to be destroyed, what would you rescue? I mean, if you had a physical treasure chest, what would you keep inside? Because we can just develop such strong attachments to certain possessions. We can become invested in things like clothes, cars, gadgets, jewelry, houses. They become a part of our identity. We just become absorbed in the pursuit of stuff. And so that's a powerful deception, and Jesus warns us about it in Luke 17:31 through 33. He says, "On that day, let the one who is on the housetop with his goods in the house not come down to take them away. And likewise, let the one who's in the field not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks to preserve his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will keep it." What about Lot's wife? Why does he mention her? Genesis 19 tells us that when the angels rescue Lot's family from Sodom, they tell them to escape and not look back. But as the city's being destroyed, she looks back and becomes, it says, a pillar of salt. And when you read Genesis 19, it doesn't say why that happens, just that she looked back. I mean, what's the point? Why does she look back? Why does it have this effect on her? And yet, we gain some insight from Jesus tying it in here. I mean, he says that when the day of the Lord comes, people should not go back to grab their possessions. Right? So, and by pointing to Lot's wife as an example of that, I think it suggests that she had that materialistic inclination. When Sodom was being destroyed, she was thinking about all that she was leaving behind. And so, as a consequence of that, she joined the residents of Sodom in their destruction because that's where her heart was. Now, with that last verse there, it seems as if Jesus is maybe moving on to a different point when he says, "Whoever seeks to preserve his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will keep it." And he uses an unusual term there that it's translated preserve in the ESV text there. Other translations say save or keep or cling, make secure or gain. In some contexts, it even has the idea of purchasing something. In fact, we saw it last week in Acts 20:28, where Paul talked about how Jesus purchased the church with his blood. And so here, Jesus is talking about someone whose life and soul are wrapped up in their purchases. They find their security in their wealth. Yet it kind of harkens back to something Jesus said earlier in his ministry. Luke 9:24 through 25 tells us that he said, "For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself?" Materialism, that clinging to stuff, is pointless from an eternal perspective. And yet I think it's easy for it to creep in. It's easy to buy into it. I mean, there's even, again, I think there's the distorted teaching, the health, wealth kind of gospel that tries to take the promises of material blessing in the Old Testament and link them into something present. But that, again, that really misses the whole point of what God's kingdom is about. And so in the teaching of Jesus, he goes to the opposite, right? He says that we should use wealth to serve God's purpose, as opposed to clinging on to it. And in Matthew 6:19 through 21, he says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This is a huge point in Luke's gospel. Back in chapter 14, he talks about how Jesus challenges the Pharisees to show what you might call risky generosity, inviting the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame to their feasts. Chapter 15, he records the story Jesus told about a father who recklessly gives his son his inheritance early and then welcomes him back after he's squandered it all. In chapter 16, Luke records another story Jesus told about a dishonest manager who used his money to make friends. And Jesus says that's how it should be for us for eternity. So Jesus wants us to see through that deception of materialism. So we have to ask, where are our hearts at? What do we treasure?